On the table today at Squirrel Stampede, I am unboxing my very most first SH MonsterArts Godzilla figure with the 1954 70th anniversary figure from Bandai Namco. We have been recently building up new plastic Tokyo City to see if it can withstand the blast of this new but old Godzilla, and it will be very much interesting to see how this Finer Things Godzilla compares up to some of the chunkier Godzillas we've checked out over the last couple years. So follow on in as we check out my very first SH MonsterArts Godzilla.
Squirrel Stampede!
Please like,
Share!
and Squirrel Live!
This is my first SH MonsterArts Godzilla 1954 70th Anniversary Special version. On either side, I have more basic versions of a 1954 Godzilla from Bandai. One in radioactive, translucent sparkle edition, of course. With so many decade variations of Godzilla, it is nice to start at the start with the 1954 original. And as these figures can get a little spendy, I do not see myself buying too many. However, we do have a couple more to look at after this one. So currently, 54 here runs approximately $120. Which is high, but not especially a deal breaker if you're big into collecting Godzilla and want a few fancy figures on your shelf. The box design is looking special. I suppose you could leave in box, although it's kind of hard to see him in that window. It gets a little dark in there. There's slash marks coming in from the top, but they don't provide enough light to filter on in. I don't know, maybe if we pull down Stick Monkey's lamp to its lowest point, we will be able to get a better view of Godzilla in there. There's lots of glare in there, though, lots of packaging, so it's just not a very visible toy inside box. I like the branding, though, right down front and center, Godzilla image off to the side there, Bandai Namco, and just a ton of other icons going through the front there. Most importantly, it makes it feel like the toy is special and that you have purchased something worthy of value. Over on the back of the box, we have an image of the figure all set up and some of the various things you can do with it. I see a 70-year display stand along with some atomic blast, another clear articulated display stand for some fun with planes and blasting, and a lengthy bio of the process of creation. Oh, I wish I still sat next to Yuki, a fellow graphic designer I worked with for a few years, who is actually from Hiroshima, I believe. Oh well, shout out to Yuki, she might have helped me translate some of this. All in all, a really sharp looking box that I look forward to digging on into and then thus ruining value, but still having a load of fun. Alright, what's the best way in? Do I go through the top? I see tape marks on the top, or do I go through the bottom? I think I'm gonna try the top with this one. We'll try cutting from the top, and I do not believe I will be keeping this box. Most likely Godzilla will be living outside of this box. Ah, fresh in the air with Godzilla. I'm glad the box is not overly complicated. It's easy in, easy out, I believe. One tape point, thank you very much. So we'll slide out Zilla God here. And reveal he's heavily packed down tightly, not getting out of this box just yet. Possibly maybe not one of those figures to repackage very easily. We'll see he is wrapped up tightly. Ooh, there's a display stand over on back. Looking fancy all everywhere, just sandwiched and tightly packed. Deshelling this, airlocked, tightly airlocked, and we got it. Oh no, tragedy. As soon as I flipped this down, everything up here went doo-doo-doo-doo. I've got a plane there, and hard lessons learned keeping my studio an absolute sty. Unbelievable misfortune, but I was able to recover both planes and a hand. Going to be searching for that other hand. I'm not much of a hand switch outer, so I think we're okay at the moment. Oh gosh, they certainly have his zany eyes from the original. Look at this. They're almost plastic googly. I picked this up over at Big Bad Toy Store though, so it should be authentic. I should be okay. And so shall we roll and uncover. Oh, lost a leg. Lost a leg. It may have just been for packaging purposes. We'll find out. I can see abundance of articulation already. Nice to keep your tail all covered up. And we get a little tease of the inner workings of the structure of Godzilla. Definitely a ball joint structure there on his hip. Hopefully this will just pack back in. And this part makes me so nervous. Ah, okay, we got it. And so there, my first SH MonsterArts figure opened, unboxed on the table. Now funny, I just watched this movie the other day, and surprisingly, that was the first time I saw 54 Godzilla. I think Earlier in my life, I was first introduced to maybe Godzilla vs. Mothra, and then just a rollout of many more of the modern Godzilla films. So I'm taking a deep dive lately into the past, which is quite a bit of fun. So at first, it's odd seeing this Godzilla in color, as 54 is a black and white film. And oftentimes, SH Monster Arts do release figures in black and white form, but I would typically rather would have color. But maybe also in this instance, it would be kind of fun to see black and white. I guess luckily with today's editing software, we can just do that manually. There we go, black and white Godzilla SH Monster Arts. So where can we start? Where can we start with this figure? I kind of want to go with the plastic. It's a lot different than what I anticipated. It's a little more crunchy than I thought. I was expecting these figures to kind of have more of a soft rubber feel, where I feel it very cratchy and scratchy. Highly textured and highly painted very nicely. Lots of gradient sprays and lots of built articulated points. It's really quite fascinating. Yeah, it's a tactile figure. I don't want to stop touching it. It's such a weird feeling. This figure isn't enormous, but it's still pretty tall, standing at about 6 inches in height, with its current stance at about 8 inches wide. We maybe could go into a little bit of the Bandai Namco 6-inch figure series we checked out a little bit ago, and you can totally tell now the superiority of an SH Monster Arts figure. This is an 03 Godzilla, I think, Final Wars Godzilla, so it's not really the same style, but you can just see the differences of all the extra detail they're putting into these figures. I don't even know where to start with the articulation on this. Maybe just go from head on down to tail. So at head point, oh, I just love the eyes. I love how they stand out. They might be a little comical, a little beady, but I would prefer this versus hard to see. And so we've got opening and closing jaw, and I should be able to jam in some atomic breath, but we'll get to that. And it's moving pretty well. It's tight. And then how many segments of neck do I have here? I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 segments of neck. It's like a Ninjago dragon here. And we can move here and there. Some points have more motion than other points, depending on where the plastic is resting. It's moving pretty good though, and I don't see any hidden things underneath. It's hiding pretty much the structure of how that's working down there. And just so seemingly moves down into the back spines without it ever really stopping. So I believe you can get a pretty good amount of realistic motion in there, and it's not like Godzilla is the most limbery, lumbery, flexible dude out there anyway. It kind of comes at you like this. Right? So it's not like it's that important to have it super articulated there. How about arms? Those are like the most important thing of any action figure. You usually go for arms first and maybe legs to sit them down on a chair or something. We've got several points. They start up at the shoulder and down to the elbow with another point at the forearm perhaps. It's tighter there, and then wrists. And of course, if we wanted to, we could pop off this hand and replace it with this hand, which almost feels like the same thing. It's got his claws closed, though, instead of open. It's so subtle, I would probably never switch. Kind of always scares me to do so. I don't want to break them. So we have those 4 points of movement in the arms. I would say, yeah, that gives you enough motion. I'm raising up and down. I'm doing some muscle curls. I could grab onto a building and throw it, maybe. It's a little tight, and again, it can be held up by the way the scales are crunched together in there, and the crunchy plastic figure, it's not as soft plastic, so you kind of lose a little bit of the give, but it's working really well. So torso, what do we have for torso? Underneath the 4 segments of neck and the arms on the side, we've got one central torso piece here, and then another piece kind of right cut down the line here, although I don't feel like there's much there in that point. That point almost feels like maybe a construction point, a point to give him a little bit of a line work. So there's not much in that point unless it's just jammed at the moment. There's a more serious point below that though at kind of the waist, and that is going to crunch on in. So we've got some crunching ability there. Not much, just maybe 5 degrees. Just a little bit there to bob him back and forth. And that would probably be your torso section. Going down to the legs, we always get such great views of Godzilla's legs as he goes lumbering about the city, and so they're looking pretty good and thick. Giant thighs, and his knees go down to a double point structure there. Oh, I broke his other leg now. This was the other side, and it just so loosely pops out a ball joint. So if you overextend, you're gonna kind of lose a point there. It easily went back in, so I'm feeling better now. And down to the ankle. Oh boy, there may be a shin point there, and then an ankle point for movement. So many points on this guy. Now we go on to the tail. And there are a lot of points of articulation in there. Reminds me a little bit of the Super 7 Godzilla we opened. What year was that? Was that an 89? Somewhere in there. And how many points? How many segments do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 at the tail, I think. That's pretty cool. And pretty good motion. All those points. You could just really play with this tail. Oh, that is fun. That is really neat. And also just satisfying with the sounds that it makes, the scratchy, cratchy Rice Krispies sound. So what, maybe like 40 total points of articulation or more. It's really hard to count up when there's that many points. And so what do we have here for helpful display? A 70-year stand. We have the outline of Godzilla in between the two numbers. That looks so fancy. And there's little points here. We may be able to pop off and add in the arm, I wonder, to this stand, or do we just kind of place him on so? He doesn't need anything to hold him up. He knows how to stand. But they did also smartly include this little displayer if you wish to kind of hold up an airplane, or say set up some atomic blast. Kind of nice little extra there. Speaking of atomic blast, there it is. It's like a giant fire icicle. I suppose it's just gonna kind of wedge right in here. I don't see a point that says it fits down this hole. Eat that, Godzilla. And maybe here, okay, so he's balancing it. At the moment, he's holding onto the fire blast without dropping or sagging down. But the back packaging also indicates using this little stand here for some display setup ideas. A little bit over much. I don't think I would go that way. In fact, I think I would just probably leave him like so on his stand just like that. I think it looks great. So finally, a really nice classic looking Godzilla figure to add over to the collection. A little more fancy than this basic release figure where he's just a few points of articulation fun. Maybe a little more sturdy, but it's nice to have something with high articulation-ness. Because with high articulation, you can do things like this. Uh-oh, Godzilla. You're not thinking about going over and smashing New Tokyo Plastic City, are you? That wouldn't be very nice. Oh, you knocked over one of their 2 convenience marts. How is anyone gonna pick up a nice DVD of one of your classics? Oh! You just took out one of the burger bars. Wait a second. Wait a second. Your all-time nemesis, Ice Rat Squirrel, wants to take command of the city. Oh, this could get ugly fast. Oh no! New Tokyo Plastic City! What are you doing? Oh no! They have fallen on top of hard times on the center of the double skate park. Oh, the calamity! Godzilla's trying to get up, and he has beaten Rat Squirrel up, but Rat Squirrel also up, taking out the towers. The tallest tower of New Plastic Tokyo City gone. There is certainly calamity here as they go again. And Godzilla throws Rat Squirrel off the screen. In triumph, Godzilla believes he is the king of all monsters. But wait a second, Rat Squirrel, he's got a terrifying spider. Look out, Godzilla, look out. Oh, look at that. The terrifying spider has been transferred over to Godzilla. And Godzilla throws the terrifying spider, but landing hard on New Tokyo Plastic City. Oh no. Well, I think they've had enough, don't you think? Don't you think? So I'm enjoying the articulation quite the bit on this figure. It is totally worth the fun if you're a classic fan of the original franchise. I'm getting him into a good lizard-like stance right now too, the way he's pushed on forward. So lots of fun with this figure. And again, those eyes are the greatest! And so that's our first SH MonsterArts Godzilla figure onto the table. Welcome, welcome. As I said earlier though, I've got a few others to share soon. We started at the very beginning with 54. Next time we'll go more current. with the SH MonsterArts Godzilla -1. Look how huge this box is. I don't think we could get any more excitement with this upcoming figure to check out, so this one here will be our next SH MonsterArts figure, and it's good timed, as we can do a little comparison with the Super 7 -1. I've been holding on to this one for a few months knowing that there was an SH coming out, and I wanted to kind of check them out together and see what each one can do. So stay tuned for that review, it's going to be fun. Hopefully New Plastic Tokyo City could rebuild in time. Oh, and I also had collected one other SH MonsterArts Godzilla, and that's from the New Empire, what we know traditionally here at Squirrel Stampede is the current Monsterverse. So I finally got a second release of this version, but when I get to it, I'd like to find the evolved version to kind of review with those two together. So those were the several MonsterArts figures I really wanted to add into my collection, just a finer things club of Godzilla figures. So I would say the 120 was worth this figure, not something I often want to do with a lot of figures, but a few Godzilla fancies are definitely worth fun to collect. If you liked today's video, please give us a squawk, squirrel, eye, squament, your favorite feature of Godzilla, and stay tuned for more SH MonsterArts Godzillas that I've collected. Thank you for watching, that's what I have to say about that. And don't forget to send Glitch some fan mail!